Hi, this is Liqian Ren, Director of Modern Alpha Wisdom Tree ETFs. Welcome to China of Tomorrow podcast series, where we navigate China, India, Japan, and the broader emerging markets with members of Wisdom Tree and other industry leaders.
We're going to talk a little bit about the price momentum that the Chinese equity has been on since Chinese New Year, and what are some of the factors that's driving this price momentum, and in terms of what our strategic and tactical positions in this episode. First, we want to talk a little bit since Chinese New Year, China fired the head of the securities regulator, which is the SEC equivalent. Compared to SEC, probably have a little bit more power than SEC in terms of policies for the equity market. The new head of CSRC, which is short for Chinese Securities Regulatory Commission, the new head, he is pretty, very detail oriented and knows what's kind of, what the companies generally use to evade the regulations. So after he came into power, he has really two significant positioning. One is forcing companies, particularly profitable companies, to do more dividend and share buybacks. In China, for American investors, they're used to quarterly dividend, but in China, it's actually dividend is very arbitrary. Many companies don't really give out dividends, not regularly. So this is one area, and encouraging share buybacks. This is supposedly to help investors to get paid, for being investing in Chinese equities, which used to be kind of jokingly called cash register for many companies because they don't pay back to the shareholders as much. The second thing is China's economic data, particularly export data, even though there are so much, I would say, different negative winds out of US and Europe, but Chinese exports continue to, do well. I think for two really reasons. You have to acknowledge that China's has been able to upgrade in some areas in terms of to a higher tech, slightly higher tech. People usually think about China as toys, clothing, but China nowadays is really, manufacturing quite higher end products like cars or machineries that is not as, good as European and American companies, definitely getting into this area. And that is why I think it got a lot of pushback, because this is, getting competitive and in some way threatening the competitiveness of American car companies and European car companies, and those are usually considered high-paying jobs in this area. So you hear a lot of pushbacks against Chinese exports. But at the same time, keep in mind, Chinese exports, not every country has a car company to protect. There are a lot of places like, just pick a random country like Jamaica. For them, cheaper Chinese cars, usually significantly cheaper Chinese cars and similar high quality electric vehicles are appealing to them. So I think this kind of trade kind of competition will be going on for quite a while, because China indeed is moving into a little bit higher tech areas, and that's going to directly compete with companies and industries in US and Europe. And it's going to be interesting to see what are the policies. But overall, the export data continues to be good. But on the other hand, the domestic consumption still continue to be very weak. And then thirdly, I think one thing people a little bit more excited than last year. Last year, I also said consistently China is very unlikely to do much stimulus last year, and it's proven to be true, because you can actually look at the state media and see how they are saying like they didn't want to. They don't say it directly, but they keep saying they want high quality growth. And I think this year there's a slightly shift, I think the economy, particularly the unemployment situation, is definitely not appealing to the party, particularly youth unemployment rate. I think for a lot of now the new graduates is going into the market based on many different data that's kind of not official, but I think the new graduate probably close to 60% get jobs. A lot of them are still trying to find jobs in this tough job market. And in yesterday, and this 3 days is actually also China's national college test day. So China has a system which is each one has to participate if you want to go into Chinese colleges, a national test. Each province has their own kind of testing. Some of the provinces have the same. So it's not exactly the same test, which is somewhat unfair in a sense because this system was set to kind of protect the people, the young people from the cities, because they got quite some leeway. Like they don't have to have higher score to get into college because the government is worried the youth in the cities are more likely to have, I wouldn't say anti-government, but more likely to do things that threaten the stability of the party's rule. So the testing system is going on. I think the reason is many people are getting a little bit excited with a little bit more stimulus coming this year. Definitely government finally relented a little bit in terms of providing lower cost loans to developers. This means in China, it's not really kind of bailout. Essentially, the government is giving very low interest loans to developers, some of the developers, but ultimately the developers still have to find a way that they can survive with these lower cost loans. If they still cannot survive, the government is unlikely to bail them out. So I think when we think about China's stimulus, the framework, you have to really think about the party in the central and its goals, where economic is still very important for them, but they also have competing goals, very different from the US. The China Central Bank also didn't really have independence in setting monetary policy. So I think the most interesting thing this year is actually out of the CSRC, the Securities Regulator, and also some of the political news. Essentially, one of the very important, I think, is some of the. That's why between now and July, I think the market generally is in a positive mood because there was expectation of China's third plenary of the party meeting. So for those who are not familiar with China's political system, it runs on every 5 years schedule. There are five in the middle. There are 5 meetings of the party, top party leadership. And the third party meeting, generally is considered more related to economic meeting, partly because there was this tradition and also history. The 11th Communist Party of China Central Committee held a meeting, the third plenary session from December 18th to 22nd, 1978. We made a historical decision to shift the emphasis of the party to economic reform and opening. So I think because of that meetings, every third plenary session, people have this expectation of China getting reform and open economic policies. So I think in some way it is true. Like we should expect some policies, some positive policies coming out of this session as well. You can actually see some of the policies getting leaked out already. It's very, very common in China because policies drive so much of the market, and then policies, it's hard to keep under wraps when these kind of big policies. So for example, China will want to, I wouldn't say buy up some of the developer houses, but probably will do something along those lines. Not as much as people expect, but they will do some. And the theme of the party will be about China's modernization, which is a very overarching kind of umbrella. concept that's been becoming popular. Some of the people are expecting some dramatic changes in terms of how people movement in China will be allowed between city and countries. So my general takeaway of these policies is that yes, this year is slightly better than last year in terms of using stimulus. On the other hand, I think market generally overreacts to Chinese news, sometimes also over expect of these policies effectiveness as well. So I feel almost like you can see positive news until the actual meeting starts. And then some people got disappointed. Which date in July? It's actually not yet known. So you can see that in China, sometimes people outside China have difficulty thinking like, how do you price a political system where you don't really know the meeting, when the meeting is going to, important meeting is going to be, specific date like 1 month ahead. But that's the thing with China, that a lot of things can happen very fast, like COVID zero, and then suddenly everything just completely open. China operates on this mode because it's a very top down, very driven by the top people's thinking and decision. And so I think for this plenary meeting, my expectation is definitely a little bit less than others, because I think now, admittedly, I'm not a political scientist. I try to learn last 3 or 4 years about how China works. My approach is very bottom up. I try to observe what's going on at the lowest level first, probably because I don't really know that many people at the very top level, but I know a lot of people in the lower level. And because I grew up in with lots of family members who generally it started from the villages, so I actually know very well how county economy works, how the top policies got actually implemented at the lowest level. So my expectation is a little bit lower on this top point, because I think after President Xi got the third term, the decision-making process in China has changed a little bit. Before you have the party secretary coming from one political faction, and then you have the prime minister coming from a different political faction. But right now it's not. The prime minister is used to be President Xi's secretary, so they are on the same, I will say, political faction. I don't think. I think a lot of these decision-making processes has changed now because of this new political setup. So the expectation of significant policy stimulus coming out, I think people might get a little bit disappointed. But again, this is a good learning experience for me, because then we will find out whether my assessment is correct or not. And I think only by backtesting your own. I was wrong many times as well, but I was right many times. Like last year, I was pretty adamant that I don't think China will do stimulus, even though there was, many times there was like a news that says China may do stimulus. So, but this year, I think because of the unemployment situation, because the really weak local government balance sheets and people's individual households balance sheet, so there will be a little bit of stimulus, but still not too much. You can see some of the policies, for example, for housing, the main policy right now is to lower it used to be 30% down. Now many places allow you 15% down and lower the mortgage rates. But in China, the existing mortgage reset don't happen that much, because it's very difficult to refinance. You can see that the government is still kind of not really spending their own money, but hoping the households to spend the money. There was a joke that I think the PBOC, everybody was like, PBOC, when are you going to spend some money? And PBOC were like, you go first. I know it's a joke, but a lot of times there's some elements of truth behind these jokes, and actually some elements of truth behind many rumors that are denied. Just today, there was a top line rumor says whoever makes 3 million yuan in mutual fund company will have to crawl back and return their extra, salary. Now, these kind of, quite outlandish rumors, generally the headline is not true, but there is element of truth. Definitely that right now the government is using a lot of their know-hows to investigate these mutual funds. Most of them are actually state-owned companies, because in China, keep in mind, whether it's state-owned or non-state-owned, it really, the concept that it cracks down on non-state-owned is not true. The party cracks down on everybody if it feels that they are in their way of achieving some goal by the party. The whole idea that it specifically target non-state-owned companies, it's not true. It just sees that, a couple of years ago, it sees that the platform companies got in too much power, so it kind of cracks down. But now most of the crackdown is in the state-owned sector. So thank you. Again, this is still tactically the price momentum continues, and I think we will continue to be a little bit positive until we see what's actually coming out in July. In specific date, I don't know yet. The plenary meeting, maybe when the podcast is released, we will know. The dates should be coming out soon, I think. But strategically, China is still facing really weak consumer balance sheet, household balance sheets, very weak local government balance sheets, and also really relentless sanctions from the US. There are many laws that's still under consideration, and there's a high likelihood of getting passed in the US, which will try to decouple from China. So we'll see how things go in the next couple of years. But I think that's a good. Generally, the baseline is still true. Thank you, and hopefully talk again, and we'll know more about this important political meeting and what actually came out of it.